continuing with part 2 of catching large moves. Now you can do this both for intraday trading or, if you get into swing trading. One thing right away when you're using something like a momentum tool, pretty easy to recognize when, right away when I have a signal on what I call structural moves, meaning, very obvious up and down moves where there's some momentum, not cyclical action, not grind or, anything like that where the market's, going sideways or cycling. But right away I can look when I get a signal, what is at that moment of time going on with the momentum indicator. Okay, at this moment of time when I get this actual trend buy signal down, the momentum tool has been down leading up to that and is still below the center line. So, that means something to me. That means, okay, I've had an initial surge down of momentum. Market sold off. It bounced a bit. I am now getting a signal, but the environment is still in a downside momentum environment. There's still some evidence that there's, down momentum environment is still in place. So that is something that I would consider makes the signal of higher probability than just taking every signal and not paying any attention to anything. And why I think that's important is that's what you can look for intraday. So when you're getting a signal intraday, do you take it or not? So you can, that's a way of filtering which ones you would take during an intraday trade. Now this is in the middle of the night. I won't really talk about that. This is during the U.S. cash session. Then also during the U.S. cash session, we get a long signal. So right away, I can look at the momentum tool, and there's a couple things I can see right away that would help me decide, yeah, I want to take that trade for sure. Like no doubt about it. Okay, let's go talk about that. First of all, from the market in this area of price right in here to the market in this area of price, the market did trade lower. The indicator is diverging. So that means my downside momentum, I have a statistical analysis of that momentum with a very unique hybrid momentum tool. Not MACD, not RSI, not anything that you'd typically ever understand or have used. It's saying that there's a dissipation of momentum. And then after all this period of time, in the middle of the night, U.S. Central Time, in the middle of the night, well, the EU markets, the main cash markets start trading. The DAX cash market side starts trading, the London hours. Going forward to the U.S. session open was somewhere right in here. So that whole period, we were a seller. And then we stabilized a bit before the U.S. session open. So I'm down momentum for a very extended time. We had a little bit of a kickback and we sold off again in U.S. cash session. Momentum continues. We make a little bit lower than prior lows. But just immediately looking at the signal, and for 5 seconds, let me zoom that back down. For 5 seconds, just seeing what is momentum doing during that activity. Down in price, up in momentum tool. I had a zero line, or not zero, but we'll call it the midline of the indicator across, leading a few bars, like 4, 5, or 6 before the signal. So divergence with cross. So when this signal hits, I'm actually now in a positive momentum environment. So let's go take a look at that real quick. Actually, let me blow this up a bit. And let's get a box on here. So here is where we get the cross. And from that point forward, we are now plotting momentum above the center line. So center line is neutral, below it's negative, above it's positive. And right in that area price, right there. So actually the signal popped just before it. So right there, leading up to that cross. So it looks like what? 2 bars later, we got the cross. Now, I see the big divergence and I see we're imminent cross and I get the signal, I'm going to take it. Just from price action standpoint, I got ascending price pivots leading up to that. So I have a momentum tool diverging, getting near zero line cross. I have a market that really can't go much lower. And then now I've had from this pivot, the low of the low from the US session, cyclical ascending pivot, cyclical ascending. So I now have the market starting to stair step higher. And then if I wanted to, I just wait for the zero line cross. Okay, now I'll get in. And if you wanted some additional confirmation, I'd be all over that signal all day long as a US session manual trader, looking to get into the beginning of what I call a developing trend. The ascending pivots is like the icing on the cake. Now, if I'm just kind of looking at my chart and I'm operating tool, I'm seeing that the downside momentum is imminent going away. And when I get that triangle to pop and the audible tone, basically 2 bars later, we have the official cross of the indicator above the center line. Technically, it was not crossed, but like I said, we did have the divergence leading up to it. And from just a price action standpoint, the ascending pivots is key. Here was the prior low, little bit lower low, even less little bit lower low. So the market's having a tougher time trading lower, very cyclical. Cyclical activity is usually where there's either distribution when it's at highs, they're distributing, or accumulating at lows. So somebody's accumulating, and then we pop a bit, pull back, pop a bit, and we do go all the way up and trade back above that recent upward pivot, and momentum completely transitioned to positive. Now, there was a beautiful diamond, the quick scalping trade. Positive momentum even above the upper dash line. Get a pullback after a nice pop out of that divergence and that structural long signal on the trend bias. And then I get a little pullback in a diamond. Boom, quick scalp. And as soon as we peek our head above that prior pivot, I'd be watching. As soon as it goes sideways, boom, I'm just blipping out. Or at least move my stop way up, lock in something in case it gets slapped down. If it runs, it runs. You got your stop up here, and then you can chase it. But quick scalping, that's actually a lot of price movement from right here on that signal around the 187 level. That's 100 points. That's 100 points. So here's another beauty of playing for the bigger moves. It's a less nervous way of trading, like quick scalping. Quick scalping to me is like you're hyper focused on everything all the time. That can get exhausting psychologically. Or for a newer trader, that can be a tough game to play. So if you want to calm things down, step back. In the beginning, just work these signals with 1 MNQ or maybe 2. These trades play out over a longer period. You can relax a little bit. Like the period of time from this signal to this one was, many, many hours. So that's pretty important. It's a different way of trading, a different perspective on things. When you don't have to be like in the trade and out in 17 seconds or 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Now you can do that kind of trading. I'm just saying it slows trading down for you. And, you're not in such a rush, and it's not such, there's not the urgency that sometimes people get stuck in and start gunslinging when they're trading in the scalping mode, full tilt scalping mode. So these are some of the ways you can take these longer term signals and not necessarily use them for swing trading, but you can use them for intraday trading, but cherry pick the ones where they're only in alignment with something going on with the momentum indicator that is backing up that signal to give it some little extra probability. So let's take a look at another example. Let's go actually do a vertical line real quick. We'll go 8:30 US Central Time. Okay, right about there, 8:30 US Central Time. So when I get a signal after the open, if I'm trading US session, what can I look at? Right away I can look at the momentum indicator. I see leading up to the US session, after rallying at the end of the prior day, in the evening, getting a slightly higher high, and then basically just going sideways the last few hours leading up to the US cash session. So the market's holding. So what has the market been doing? Stair-stepping higher, stair-stepping higher. So my initial thoughts would be, out of the open, we'll very likely get some sort of attempt to push higher. We come into the US session open, and I get a diamond signal, and I've got high momentum already showing. So if you're doing the quick scalping, there you go. There's signal one, and you're off to the races. If you're more on the I want to slow things down and wait and get the bigger picture structural signals, and then evaluate real quick. Okay, I'm in a building high momentum environment above the upper dash line, and then I get a structural long signal. I'm in, and it goes, and more than enough price movement to get your 500, 600, 700 a day, for any sort of prop account trading. And when I usually talk about that, I'm talking about like a 150K account. So just getting the structural signal that aligns with momentum is very important. Now let's take a look at some of the other signals later in the day, in the afternoon. Okay, here I get a short. If I'm not mistaken, this was an all-time new high. I get a short. Do I have any divergence or anything like that? No. So I can take it saying, hey, the market made new all-time highs. I'm going to take a shot at the short side. Okay, it's a trade. It's not of the same probability as that trade. The PFS system is about taking trades where everything is in alignment. Momentum is green, trend bias is green, and the PFS scalp all is green. Green, 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 boom, catch a move. Now this one I have at that moment of time, the PFS scalp is purple. We have trend bias go purple, I get a signal. Yes, I had strong momentum, it's dissipating. I don't have any divergence or anything. So I don't have anything else to help me back up taking that trade. Other than, hey, we made a new all-time high, and this is the first short signal out of the all-time high. Then later in the day, I get a long signal. Momentum's down, so lower probability. So we'll call these A trades. We'll call these B or B minus trades. They're okay. But hey, look at that. Now I get an A trade. That little lift attempt stalled, and I get a PFS trend bias signal, structural trade to the downside. Scalp is purple, trend bias is now purple. I'm in downside momentum, and I get a beautiful, nice little move there. And now it's already like 12:30 in the afternoon US Central Time. What in the heck am I still trading for? So then if I took all the structural trades up till that, about lunchtime hour, I was 3 for 1, had a fantastic day. So in the end, you can catch big moves for swing trading or intraday trading. And we'll cover more topics on this in the future. So stay tuned to the Prop Firm Scalping YouTube channel.